welcome to another farm fresh restaurant quality episode of WE&K, the weekly AEW news kick. I'm your host Tom, joined as always by Patrick.
Hello again.
And WE&K's sound engineer and Weatherspoons enthusiast, Jack Griffin.
We made it to episode 2.
We did, it's party time.
Whoop, whoop.
You know, no big breaking news stories this week, so we're just going to launch straight into the Dynamite recap. Let's get this going. We opened with JR giving us an It's Wednesday, you know what that means, so it looks like that will be a permanent feature of Dynamite now, as well as some other wrestling shows are still doing it apparently, so, you know, that's a nice tribute. Our opening match was Pac versus Eddie Kingston, a blow-off to a feud that's been building over the past few weeks. What did you make of this? Let's come to Patrick.
I'm fine with that. It was a really good match. I was surprised on how good Eddie Kingston was also doing in the ring against Pac, because Pac is very athletic and yeah, I think he makes. I was afraid he may look him bad or, you know, slow or anything, but no, they paced good together. That was very fine. I liked the finish. That was cool. And yeah, with the finish in general, like everything that happened after the match with Lance Archer running in and the Lucha Bros running in. No, the Lucha Bros are running in later, right? Were the Lucha Bros not in the ring afterwards? I'm just confused now.
Well, there was so much chaos later on in a match later on, after a match later on that we'll talk about later, that it's kind of hard to keep track of who came out when.
Yeah, right. So yeah, like what I said, afterwards what happened, what was nice that Lance Archer came out. I think that's the essence of it, because Lance Archer joined them to help against Eddie Kingston and the Butcher Blade and the Bunny. That was interesting. Let's see where that approach is. They broke off.
Well, I like that it doesn't seem to be over, because at the beginning of the episode, and I wrote on my notes that it would be good if this became a longer feud and it wasn't over tonight, because I really like, they're both incredible talkers. I don't think Pac really gets the credit where it's due for his mic skills. Eddie obviously does, but yeah, Pac cut a nice promo when he was on his way to the ring, a video package, and yeah, I mean, I wish there had been more reasons to invest emotionally in this feud, but I mean, it's Pac's first match back. He looked great. He came out the blocks really fast. Eddie, as always, I mean, he did his best to tell stories during the match. He had that spot where he was being a bit of a psycho and kind of goading Pac into kicking him. That was great. He always looks like he's on the verge of tears, Eddie Kingston.
Yeah, Eddie Kingston, Pac. I agree with you, Tom. I'm glad it's not over. I had a feeling, a weird sense it was going to be over. I thought it was going to be one of those weird moments that AEW does where they have something good going and they rush it and it's done within a Dynamite. But yeah, these two are really good talkers, really good wrestlers. The backing team they've got behind them with Lucha Bros and Lance Archer now, and obviously Butcher and Blade. It's good to see them guys wrestle as well when it interlocks the whole feud. And yeah, it's definitely not over. So I'm excited to see what comes next with that. But yeah, when everyone started coming out, and then obviously Lance Archer's music hits, and that music just hits me hard every time. Everybody just gets me. But one of the best entrance music wrestlers got at AEW. But yeah, now, as a match overall as well, I was actually disappointed a little bit. I liked the match, and I like the quality of the match. I just wish it got on longer, and I feel like that's where, like last week when we were previewing, I thought it should be a pay-per-view match. Maybe it will eventually, as we said, the feud will go on longer, hopefully, and they'll have a pay-per-view match. So maybe I shouldn't be too disappointed, but I still felt it felt a little short for me.
Yeah, and I have to agree. I gave it a 3.25, so obviously, a good average match, but an average match all the same. I have to disagree with Patrick a little bit and say that I did think Pac outshone Eddie Kingston and exposed some of the flaws in Eddie Kingston's repertoire a bit. And it wasn't for want of trying. Eddie did try to keep up, and maybe that's what was coming through for you, because he hit an enziguri at one point, but it didn't look as pretty as it would if Pac had hit it, or if Phoenix had hit it, or if someone else. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're going to go for moves
I
like
said
that.
also like the pace a little bit. The pace was okay. So Pac, of course, in the beginning, Pac was super fast, was like really hitting him out of nowhere with the moves. But then like the middle pace of the match was okay, and then in the end it got faster because you could see Pac is obviously winning. So yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know whether, I mean, it was a bit of ring rust with him coming back, or whether it was just that was planned to take all the rest spots or whatever. But it did, as you say, it slowed down a bit in the middle, which was a bit weird considering how it started and how it's packed. But yeah, a solid match. It was a solid match. I think you guys will agree. It wasn't mind blowing. It wasn't a bad match by any means.
Yeah, solid is a good review of that. Really, yeah.
So then we were into Chuck Taylor versus Miro. Now, I'm really glad they've changed this feud a little bit. You heard the guys on commentary multiple times. No one mentioned the word young boys, not on commentary and not the competitors in the match. Because as you agree, that we spoke about last time, it was weird. It didn't translate. It was a thing in Japan. It didn't really translate to American television. So Chuck, if he lost this match, would be Miro's butler, not his young boy, for the next month, which is much better for the American audience. I think you'll agree.
Yeah, definitely. I was wondering in the beginning when they started talking about it, I was like, why Butler? Why? And then I read about it's probably for the American audience, most who are not common to the Japanese structure of wrestling there. So that was a good choice. But what was not good was the match. Like I can actually start at the match length, 3 minutes 25 seconds is nothing, and we haven't barely seen Miro in the ring at all. Still, I think Miro is very underutilized. You also say in English, I guess, right? So he's not used very well. Still, this feud is for me. I don't know where is it going now. There might be funny moments coming out of it, maybe now with the wedding up, and that that Chuck Taylor will be his butler during that time. But I don't know what to say from this still. It's going on for I don't know how many months now, maybe half a year already, and there's nothing coming out of it, really nothing. And Miro is hopefully he'll make his breakthrough with some good matches. Also, I hope he gets a pay-per-view match at one point again. I don't know if they also set the length a little shorter because he was injured for a while again after his comeback, but it's not good now, so can only be better.
I mean, Chucky T came out pretty strong at the very beginning of the match. I think he was looking really good and really fast, and I was thinking maybe he's got something to prove because he's got this time as a singles wrestler now. Trent's out for a few months with a torn pectoral, isn't he? So there's a lot of ways they can go with. There's a lot of ways they can use that injury. One is showcasing Chucky T a bit more, giving him a chance to shine, and another is making it a more serious rivalry than it has been previously with all the Twitch humor they're going for. There's things that I didn't really get, and I think it's because I haven't been watching them on Twitch. I don't know if they've covered stuff on BTE, but they came out with the Trent cardboard cutout. Kip did. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously he's put him out of commission or whatever, so that's part of it, but I don't know if there's more to the cardboard cutout that I haven't seen or what that was about. I also noticed Kip came out with a mask on, but then took it off at ringside where there's more people. So, again, that confused me. Just everything about Kip Sabian in general and this feud confuses me. But I don't know if I have to be watching Twitch to get a lot of the references or...
Yeah, it was... I know we talked about it last week because we had talked a bit in length, actually, about how it weirded us out, this whole sort of storyline they've got going on. And this match didn't help improve that situation for me. I know I said last week that maybe they're planning something further along, and I still think that. And obviously now he is the butler after the result. But yeah, it's not furthered it for me. It's not improved it for me in any way. It actually even weirded me a bit out the end of the match where he was on his knees, wasn't he? And Miro had him on the floor by him, and that weirded me out. The only bit I sort of liked was the look kind of Orange Cassidy gave Chuck T as if to say I can't help you now sort of thing, and that was a good sort of bit for me in terms of the storyline where it's actually Chucky T's in trouble sort of here, where even his best friend can't get him out. But there's obviously still more to go with it, and maybe we'll end up, once the whole storyline's finished and completed, we'll be it wasn't too bad in the end. But it's from start to where we are at the moment, it's not done anything for me, and it's definitely not one that when we talk about AEW 5-10 years down the line, we'll be talking as one of their best storylines.
Given the limited time they have for how many people they've got on the roster, this feud feels like it's taking away TV time from others, I feel a little bit. But I'm with you. I hope it turns it around. I'm not confident at this point. But, there could be some good stuff come out of... As I say, they could make something good come out of Trent's injury and turn it a bit more serious, maybe showcase Chucky T a bit and his humour, but we'll see. Next up, we had another Hardy Party. Are they still Hardy Party promo? Where Matt is now their manager rather than their tag team partner. He's taking 30% of their wages. What do we think about this little promo?
Yeah, so obviously last week we saw him. It was featuring Snoop Dogg, the weirdest sort of cameo in a promo we've ever seen, where he
Still not over it. It was bizarre.
where all he brought to the party was juice. Imagine, actually, you're going to a party, you've got gin, you've brought the alcohol, and someone's just brought juice. It's like, at least bring some more gin with you. Like, this party needs more gin. Like, bring the mixer, yeah, but like, if you're just a dude who brings juice to a party, like, you're going to get laughed out of there. I mean, they'll take the juice, but then they'll laugh you out of the party. And this is Snoop Dogg. Anyway, enough about that. But yeah, so obviously, last week they signed the contracts. And then there was a bit on BT this week, which I know if Patrick watched it, like me, who watched it every week, he might have saw it as well, where they were talking about...
call me out like that, all right.
Yeah. Did you watch BT this week?
I haven't, no. I should.
There you go. But no, they were talking about the financial side of stuff, which I know hasn't been mentioned on Dynamite. So this seemed like another, like last week where we mentioned where they bring stuff into Dynamite that hasn't been mentioned, and it was on BT, and they hope people like get it, because obviously they brought the money thing. But yeah, 50% they seem to be getting of stuff, which again seems like reference that Twitch for cameo stuff you mentioned last week as well.
Yeah. I'm not sure how I feel about that, especially in the wake of Brody Lee's death, when he was the guy that came in and was parodying Vince McMahon, and now they've got Matt Hardy taking shots at the Fed.
Yeah, it seems weird, doesn't it?
One thing I did like about this was they seem to add continuity with Matt losing trust in people after his match with Sammy Guevara All Out and the concussion. Yes,
and it seems like it's definitely his new gimmick now, which we had a whole thing about, talking about Matt Hardy gimmicks, which you can check out in the last episode. But yeah, this whole new gimmick he's doing now, which is like kind of like this business kind of guy who's signing all these contracts. Again, there was a bit on BT where they obviously played on that, but he was selling the Bucks a new room for them to, have backstage. And obviously it ended up being someone else's room, and it was just a whole jokey thing. But that seems to be the gimmick he's going for, like this guy who's all business and all contract. He seems a bit snidey with it. So I still lots to learn about it. I don't think I'm a fan. I just want Broken Matt back, because that was just a happy time in my life.
Thoughts on the direction of this storyline, Patrick?
Nothing to add here to you guys, actually. Because I see it completely the same. No, it's just like, I don't know what the outcome of this will be. Also, as Jack mentioned, the BTE bit with him, like with Matt selling... or there's no renting out the room to the Bucks. I don't get it. I don't get the joke around it. Or maybe they're building something from it very slowly or so. Then I hope there will be a nice outcome. But in the end, right now, also with Private Party, also this direction where it goes, like pointing at WWE with the third party money they're making or so. I think that's out, that it don't need to do that really anymore. It was just one.
It was funny. The first time when it came up at the bottom saying AEW officially endorses Cameo or something like that, or during a promo it came up with text at the bottom. That was funny. It's funny when it's fresh. I remember them doing a dig about the Hell in It.
Yeah, right. You don't need to like keep on writing on it and keep picking on them, because that's not their style, actually. Like, I wouldn't do that. So yeah.
I remember on BT them. See, I do watch sometimes. A while back, when they ripped on the finish to the Fiend versus Seth Rollins Hell in a Cell match, if you can remember that far back, where it ended in a disqualification despite it being a Hell in a Cell match, and that was funny because it was a few days after. It might have even been the day after. They got on it really quick. But imagine if they were still making that joke now. Do you know what I mean? That it would be just so played out. It would be, and I think they need to stop assuming people are watching BTE as well, because they're not. Not that it's not a good show; it's a great show, but I don't catch it every week. So, and this is the same thing about when they did the lawnmowers with the Dark Order, when it had never been mentioned on Dynamite before. And I'm not opposed to them bringing stuff that's worked on BTE and making it the storyline on Dynamite. For example, the Dark Order now, in the wake of Brody Lee's death, I think, and we'll talk about that a bit more in a minute, that them as a face team with their BTE gimmick that was decidedly different from their Dynamite one is the way to go. But I don't think referencing things that are established on BTE but not Dynamite is the way to go. I think that's a poor move. Right. Next, we came on to the Inner Circle's New Year's resolutions. What did we make of this segment? Let's go to Patrick.
That was pretty nice. So showing up, the group being together out there and then also seemingly divided with the dividing within the group. Now Chris Jericho does that himself by saying that he and MJF will win the tag team championships, and then upsetting Sammy Guevara with it because they used to be the sex gods and now they're not. And then they're not called Proud and Powerful anymore, right? So Santana and
Just
Ortiz.
Santana and Ortiz.
Yeah, Santana and Ortiz, they are also now upset saying, you just got us in here because you said we're the best tag team. So, keeping this going on the storyline with the inner destruction of the inner circle, let's say it like this. And the outcome of it now, of this whole discussion, is a really, really nice match for next week, a three-way tag team match. Who of them is allowed to challenge for the tag team titles? Which I find also, like, now comes the part, and I don't mind too much about it, but there's the point again, okay, will they now compete as a tag team, or will they challenge immediately as a tag team for the championship? Because then all the scores would be gone again, the scoring
not just
system.
that, they will become the official tag team of the Inner Circle. I will just start by saying that when they came out, they entered, the crowd seems to have got the memo to chant Judas 2 times through now, which me and Jack always appreciated, because it always felt like it was going to go longer and then it didn't, but it seems to have caught on now, thank goodness. If you want to go through their New Year's resolutions point by point, Jake Hager's was championships, MGF's was closer bonds with his Inner Circle stablemates, and fat people gotta go. Ortiz, I hope it was Ortiz and not Santana, otherwise apparently I'm a racist and hashtag cancel WNK. Cooking, I just wrote down cooking because I wasn't familiar with the dish he was talking about, but it got a big pop from the Spanish contingent in the audience, so it must be really good. And Jericho was to win the tag titles with MJF, and then of course all hell broke loose and Sammy called him a tag team slut. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I thought it's really clever. Sorry, I'm still laughing about them. If I break them down each one, Hager's one made me laugh. Just when he comes out, just like
he said it at the end as well. Championships,
yeah. And that just made me crease up because it was just like, that's kind of the character I take Hager to be. He doesn't say he's a man of few words, but when he does, it's just like, it's kind of that typical, like, he's a big guy, but when he speaks, it's not like the cleverest stuff. And it's just like, just want championships, it was Ortiz who said the cooking stuff, so you got that right, so we're not going to get cancelled, so thank you, Tom. First
Patrick trying to talk about Marty Scurll, then now this. I'm dodging bullets left and right here. Watch me go.
MJF's one, there's not too much to say. Obviously, we all know MJF's a little bit of a snide guy. Something's going to happen, but closer bonds. It's nice. Yeah, touching on the cooking thing again, I thought it was a nice touch when, was it saying that, and everyone was like, delicious. And I think, was it MJF was like, what? I don't even know what that is, or something like that, he said.
Oh, no, it was the opposite. He claimed like he did. He was like, I totally know what that dish is.
That was it. Yeah, that was it. I totally know what that is. And it was just like, that made me laugh. But then talking about, obviously, the main thing to come out of it, that triple tag match next week. I'm looking forward to it. I kind of feel a bit sorry for Santana Ortiz, how it's gone. And I feel sorry for, obviously...
Well, yeah, because they're saying the official tag team of the Inner Circle. As far as I was aware, Santana and Ortiz were the official tag team of the Inner Circle.
And Jericho, it made me laugh when, obviously, Sammy called him a tag slut. Because, I thought the Sex Gods was the best kind of second tag team to the Inner Circle. Like, obviously, it was always going to be Santana Ortiz. But that was a nice, like... And they had a good name. A good, like, name you could get on board with as a tag name. And then, obviously, it was Hager and Jericho, and that obviously for me wasn't a tag thing. But then he did say they were going to challenge, and then obviously MJF comes in. It's like a kid with his new toy. MJF's his new toy, and he's like, we're going to win it now.
That's a good
point. I think you know what, I want Santana Ortiz to win still.
I mean that would be a good thing because it would show their, there's something to be said for having tag team chemistry, and it's like not everyone could just come in here and be you can't just put two guys together and be a tag team. It takes work, so it would be quite consistent and good if Santana Ortiz won that. Don't know if they will. What I do know is I don't see Sammy and Hager winning it, but that might be part of it. Do you know what I mean? The fact like Jericho dismissing them out of hand.
I agree with you as well. I'd like Santana Ortiz to win. I think for storyline purposes, they'll probably go Jericho and MJF just to build that kind of bond a bit more. For that initial, when he stabs Jericho in the back, it hits harder. So obviously, I think Jericho and MJF will win next week. But it'll be a shame, but it'll add storyline depth as well to Santana Ortiz's characters, because they're already distant characters at the moment in terms of friendships in the inner circle. So obviously then, if they're not even a tag team of the inner circle, it's like, well, what do we have going for us? Like, we're not the tag team in this group. Like, where do we stand?
Jericho.
Also, did you guys get the reference? The reference.
No.
Chris Jericho made with Sammy Hager when they said it.
No, I must have missed that. Sammy Hager's like, really? Okay, I get it now. I was just thinking he was doubting his their abilities as a tag team, but I completely missed that.
So just for info, you also told me that's a member of Van Halen. This is why Jericho made the reference. So just for the info, I didn't know that as well.
Well, while we're pointing stuff out, did anyone catch that hilariously gifable moment when they were talking about the match between Hager and Wardlow, and they cut to Hager looking very sad, and then cut to Wardlow looking incredibly smug? That was brilliant. I'm gonna have to go back and clip it. Right, then we went on to a Dark Order promo, which for me was a face turn. I don't know about you guys, what you thought, if that's how you interpreted it, but yeah.
Face turn, really? Well, I didn't see a face turn, but...
Did it not feel like a face turn to you?
No, I don't know. I would also consider them more as tweeners, because they're not really heels, because they're not really attacking people or cheating or so, like now, really big time. They're also not clearly good guys, but I would say they're kind of in the middle now. I'm curious to see what Hangman will say then next week. The ultimatum he got from them, or not really an ultimatum. He said, "Yeah, I'm going to tell you next week if I join Dark Order." Yeah, I'm curious to see what this will be the end of. Yeah, not the end. If this will be a beginning of something new then for the Dark Order now with the passing of Brody. And yeah, the organization structure is still also not really there. There's no real leader. I would say Evil Uno right now is their leader. He was
like a de facto leader.
Yeah. But let's see how that develops. It's quite interesting. I like also these small bits. This bit was like a minute long, minute and a half, but it just continues to tell the story, and I really like that. This is what I like in AEW in general. There doesn't have to be a big match, 10 minutes, 15 minutes with promo package, whatever. It can also be like once a week, like 90 seconds, 2 minutes, just these things, and it just keeps in your head, stays in your head, and keeps the story going for a longer time.
I do think Dark Order and Hangman need to be on television weekly. Do you know what I mean? But even if it's just small bits like this to remind you it's ongoing, because I'm really into it. I'm really into this storyline and where they can go with it. And I mean, we've talked about it before, but they really should have pulled the trigger on Hangman earlier. But better late than never. And coinciding with the Dark Order stuff being over at the moment, it did feel like a face turn through humour to me, to be honest, and the way they were talking. We had John Silver fangirling over Adam Page, and it felt like the completion of the transition of their characters on BTE to becoming their characters on Dynamite. What did you make of it, Jack?
Yeah, I think I'm more with Patrick on the tweener side. I didn't see it as a complete face turn yet. Because I think that's still too soon from their heel side. But I do think they're getting there. And I think everyone knows they're getting there because obviously how over they are on BTE. And obviously they're not as heel as other heels in the company. So they're definitely turning that way. But I just so hope, I was about to say I so hope he joins. I think he will. But in terms of the match next week anyway, I was thinking if they lose, he might not join because he doesn't see it. But who they're facing next week? I saw it was Chaos Project, and I can't remember who the other person is, but literally it's Luther and Serpentico. So like that's a win for me.
TH2.
Oh yeah, there you go. Was it TH2 and Luther, or was it
TH2 and Chaos Project? I think. Oh, was it? Yeah, TH2.
I know Luther's fighting, so I just saw Luther, and that to me is just an automatic win for, because I think it's Hangman, John Silver, and Alex Reynolds. Oh no, it's Chaos Project and TH2 because it's Hangman, Colt Cabana, then it's John Silver and Alex Reynolds. Yeah, so it's
8-man tag.
Eight-man tag. Yeah.
Also know.
So I think yeah, it'll go. They win. They look good. Hangman, obviously, the whole celebration starts. They're like, yeah, we won, whatever. And I think he's found like a little family. It's what obviously we like to see, because obviously that it was such a sad storyline being like casted out of the Elite. He's found some friends now. They like really like him, and it's just nice to see it. And yeah, I'm with you, Tom. I'm invested in this storyline. I'm looking forward to seeing where it's going.
I suppose just to defend my point of it being a face turn, before we move on, is that when you are going through a gradual face turn through tweener territory, it's always going to be subjective at what point they become face. Do you know what I mean? So, like, when it's not just going through one moment, like hitting a person with a chair that you weren't supposed to hit. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to be like an initial moment like that. So we're all going to have our threshold on what makes them face. But I think we're all in agreement that that's the way they're going. Whether they're there or they're not. Oh my God. Cut that or leave it in. Whether they are there or fuck my life. Whether they are there or not yet.
Whether they're there or they're not.
I'm just going to move on. Leave that in. I don't give a shit. Right.
Leave that in, please.
The next thing we had was a really good promo for a match later in the night, which we will talk about at the actual match at the end of the show. But Darby Allin, I'm rattled. I've been rattled. I'm down, lads. Darby Allin and Brian Cage promo. Darby Allin versus someone else talk. So who liked this promo?
Yeah,
Somebody talk.
Promo package for Darby Allin versus Brian Cage for the end of the show, for the main event of the show. Tom is now a little handicapped with his mouth.
I can't speak.
We say in German. We say when something like this happens, that's mouth diarrhea.
Brain fart, I would say.
Brain fart. Yeah.
One thing I noticed is they had so much. This was an amazing promo, but I think it kind of betrayed a better rivalry than it has been. Like, it made it seem they had so much footage that they could. Do you know what I mean? They had so much footage that they could use, that they could put together a package that made it look like a more cohesive storyline than it's been. Whereas, we were talking about this last time, where sometimes we don't know whether that rivalry's still on, or whether, like they said, it's been, 9 months? At times we weren't sure whether the rivalry was still on. We weren't sure whether Darby Allin was currently feuding with Brian Cage or with Ricky Starks. And so, but there was a lot of content there from a lot of matches and a lot of spots and a lot of moments. So they could put it together in a way that made it seem like an absolute epic storytelling when it hasn't quite been that, has it?
Yeah, no, I think, because I was just thinking when you brought it up, the promo, I was like, which one? I think it's from Road 2. I think I watched the Road to Night 2 of New Year's Smash. I think it was just...
It's contagious! Road tonight to Road to... Oh dear.
But yeah, no, it was from the Road 2 series anyway. And yeah, I agree with you. It's weird because it wasn't really a feud that... It was a feud that at the start you were invested in, then you kind of like get a bit bored, and now because it's more recent and the match is happening, you get a bit more excited about it again. It's one of those. And yeah, obviously we'll talk about the match later. But yeah, the promos itself, if we're talking, because that's what we're doing. We're
AEW excel at promos.
Yeah, and especially at Road 2. Road 2 can make you get hyped about anything. And whilst it's quickly on my mind, actually, no, I'll say it now whilst it's there. I know we'll talk about Kenny later when we come to his match. But quickly, just for people listening as well, before Hard to Kill, there's a 40-minute video on YouTube, like a Road 2 series, just purely about the Kenny and Good Brothers versus Rich Swann and Motor City Machine Guns, which, 40-minute kind of Road 2 thing about that feud, which is called Check Out as well. But obviously they do it.
Get on that.
They do it in 40 minutes. It wasn't as good, but it was obviously filled with more like behind the scenes stuff. But
It's smart to do that as well, because not everyone's going to be watching Impact, and not everyone's going to be familiar with these people.
Exactly. So that's cool to check out. But yeah, so in terms of this one and the Road 2 series in general, they're really good at building it up, making it you really hyped for something that you could easily not be hyped for. And it does give it that sense of there's more on the line than you first thought, really.
And that takes us into quote-unquote the Elite versus Griff Garrison, Brian Pillman Jr. and Danny Limelight. What did we make of this?
Yeah. Am I allowed to go?
You are allowed to. You're allowed to spoil the twist. Yeah.
So I thought this was incredible. I knew it was coming, because it was when they said the Elite and the three of us and stuff. So obviously, the show ended last week. Too Sweetin, the five of them, Good Brothers, Young Bucks, and Kenny. So obviously, Kenny comes out, genius entrance as always. Highlight of the entrance every time for me is North Carolina, especially where he's not from North Carolina. And I did see theories before. No, I'll tell you why. You know who is from North Carolina? FTR. And there was a sort of hint that there was going to be some sort of... I remember seeing a rumour once that it was associated with that.
Horsemen.
Four Horsemen joined that like that. But I don't know. But yeah, anyway, I still love that. But yeah, the entrance obviously comes in. Don Callis, the little, worker he is, putting these people together. Love it. Anyway, so takes the mic off Justin Roberts, which is funny, and then just starts talking. And obviously everyone starts chanting as well, don't they? And it's like, yeah. And then they end up bringing out the Good Brothers instead of the Bucks, even though the Bucks were backstage, all ready to come out with as well. And it was just so heel, and it was just so... You know who I feel sorry for, actually? In a completely unrelated note, Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison, who are actually good wrestlers, and just that everyone's kind of...
They had a great outing, I thought.
They did. But obviously, they're like the bump boys, really, aren't they? They're just like, obviously, taking the losses, but actually good wrestlers. And I hope they do get their chance to shine in the future and actually get a win streak going. But yeah, so obviously the story of the match really was just, it was meant to be Kenny and the Bucks, who haven't actually fought with each other. And they did say, I can't remember, I think it was like...
144 days.
There you go, 144 days, so it's been a while. And yeah, they just end up obviously wording it so they can get away with bringing out the Good Brothers instead, so they can obviously keep that thing going. And everyone was obviously a bit... I was about to say disappointed. No one was disappointed. Obviously, it was still like awesome to see them come out, but it was just clever. I thought the way they did it, and the match was still a good match. Yeah, like I said, obviously I said that they were the Bump Boys, but I didn't mean it like that. It felt like it was going to initially be a squash match, but it actually went on longer than I think most people thought it did, and it was a good match still as well.
Well, sorry to cut you off, Jack. We'll talk about the match in a minute, but I know Patrick's got some thoughts about the whole kind of set up to this match and the concept. What are your thoughts about it, Patrick?
First of all, I like the Los Buenos Hermanos shirt. I think Gallows was wearing. That's good. Like the Good Brothers in Spanish.
That, but,
I love that. Yeah, I love that. When I saw it, I was like, oh, that's cool. Actually, I want to have that shirt if it's there. that's a real nice meta gag.
Is that I almost said their old name. Is that an Impact store shirt?
I think it's an Impact. Yeah, I think it's an Impact. I'm not watching it regularly, but I think it's Impact. And I also, like Jack said, like I like that a lot, that Callis now tries to split up the group, or just tries to take charge of everything, speaks for Kenny, or like splitting this up, getting involved. I like that. This can be this tension can lead us to something somewhere at one point, which will be very interesting to see. Yeah, and I like
trying to isolate them from, just to pick up on what you said there, trying to isolate them from the Bucks from Kenny. It does seem to me to be going in a very, like, I know we talked about it before, and I say now they won't do a full blown invasion, but it seems to be going in that way, sort of, because Callis is like the co-chairman or something of, I don't know what his title is, of Impact, and he's
executive vice president.
He's got Kenny, but he's got no reason to want to split him off from the Bucks, other than come and just chill with us over at Impact and our Impact guys, you know what I mean? Rather hang out with your Impact friends, don't hang out with your AEW friends,
Yeah, but that's also what I see. I also just wanted to add that I like that I saw the Good Brothers in the ring, because we finally have some Impact wrestlers then in an AEW ring, and that's what I liked. Yeah.
For sure. Did someone have to refresh my memory? Did Kenny always do the throat cut before the bang as part of a taunt? Because he did that on the way to the ring. He did the throat, and I didn't know whether it was because I know some people, and I thought they were reading too much into it. Thought something Kenny said last week or the week before was a reference to Jay White, and I thought, oh, there's nothing to that. But then, the current leader of the Bullet Club. But then he did the throat cut this week, and I was like, oh, maybe there was something to it. But I can't remember whether that was always part of his taunt back in New Japan.
Yeah.
Or
yeah, he did that. He did that a lot.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, he did that a lot. Not always, especially when he was turning face in his final.
Yeah, I did watch, but
and he wasn't doing. He wasn't. He was mostly doing it when he was the cleaner. Really.
That's why it seemed a bit unfamiliar to me now, is because he hasn't been the cleaner for a while, and I'm glad that he's bringing these elements of it back, whether it's elements of the cleaner or just heel Kenny in general. He wore the leather jacket, but more than that, he's acting weird again now, in a good way. Do you know what I mean? Like when he comes down to the ring, and just the facial expressions he makes, and the way he moves, and the way he moves his head, he's a weird dude, if that makes sense. But like that, it really works. I remember the first time a friend of mine saw Kenny Omega years and years ago. It would have been now probably around, I don't know, after Wrestle Kingdom 9, maybe before Wrestle Kingdom 10, and he was at like junior heavyweight level in the Bullet Club, so he wasn't Bullet Club leader. AJ Styles would have been Bullet Club leader at this point, and he saw Kenny. He was like, this guy just looks so dirty. Do you know what I mean? Not in like a perverted way or something, but just like he just looks skeevy. Do you know, with his kind of leather jacket and his kind of, he used to have the kind of silver hair and the toothpick out of his mouth and just like looking really kind of slimy, and that's what I love about, and that's what he kind of feels like he's bringing back. He puts on this face where he's like rocking his head and he looks a little bit not drugged out, but kind of like just odd. Do you know what I mean? He just seems like just a weirdo, like, and I love that. I think it's great. And speaking of New Japan, him and the Young Brothers haven't missed a beat tagging together. I thought they were really good, and I actually thought,
yeah.
The guys
and also, sorry, they also
Danny
changed
Limelight,
something in his entrance. In his entrance video, somebody pointed that out also on I think on Reddit, was it? The backgrounding of Kenny Omega, it was more like this grayish steel color when it was on screen, his name. But now on the Titantron video also, I think you call it, it has like a red background, like the Terminator red background.
Yeah,
that was
which he was always took
detail.
Influence from. Yeah, but I want to talk about their opponents a little bit. Danny Limelight, Griff Garrison, Brian Pillman Jr., all very good wrestlers. This was, I think in AEW, sometimes their squash matches go on a little bit too long, if that makes sense. We all know the result of it, but I feel like they've got a policy, and this not only applies to this, but also applies to like at least one other match. We were talking about Miro versus Chucky T, weren't we? And there may have been another, I can't remember. But yeah, they have a lot of, they like to give everyone a chance to shine, whereas sometimes it's like, I know what the result of this is going to be, I'm not particularly invested in the person trying to make themselves shine, can we just get it over with? But I didn't get that this time, because I love watching these guys wrestle, do you know what I mean? All of the guys, and Danny Limelight specifically kind of stood out to me as making quite an impression in this match. He sold his ass off. There was a point where he was selling off Kenny for a little bit, and then Kenny tagged in Carl Anderson, and Carl Anderson throws him into the turnbuckle, and he just like bounced halfway across the ring, to the point where I was like scribbling my notes, and my mum was here as well, watching the arse end of this match with me, and Jack's mum also, not just my mum. The way Danny Limelight bounced off the turnbuckle, I looked up and I was like, oh, so that's Luke Gallows that just threw him then. And I was like, oh, wait, no, that's Carl Anderson. Because, like, the way he bounced off was like he sold it like this guy was, like, a monster. He was spiking his head into the floor off moves from Kenny. He was just, going all out.
Yeah, I also saw that. Like, I really liked the match also. I'm always saying I really liked that, but I really liked that. There's something you have to say about it. And I like these kind of squash matches, what you said, like they have this policy. Yeah, like you said, it's weird that the Miro match was just like 3.5 minutes long and this was almost 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
But I like that even if it's a squash match, the wrestlers who are getting squashed can a little bit show off their skills, because as you also said before, that Danny Limelight or Griff Garrison and especially Brian Pillman are really good wrestlers, and they can still really also maybe benefit from it when they're resting. They're getting their showtime, they're getting their on-screen time for 10 minutes. So that's really good.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're talking about it now saying, oh, I don't know about these long squash matches, but I mean, we're talking about them, we're talking about how good they are, so obviously it is working, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. So that's a really good thing. Not also like WWE. I remember that it was a lot back then in the Ruthless Aggression era when they had these 30-second, 1-minute squash matches, which really annoyed the hell out of me. Yeah, this is a completely different approach.
I haven't watched
but not
WWE
as
in
many
quite a while.
as. Yeah, but back then in the days it was just like one squash match a week or so like this, and here you can barely see it. Just maybe I remember Nyla Rose to put her over to bring a squash match, or even when Sheeta had some squash matches, they were like 5 minutes long at least, and it looked still good in the ring. So.
Well, I remember the last WrestleMania I watched with Jack. There was a squash match at WrestleMania between Samoa Joe squash and Rey Mysterio as well. Like, that was wild. Like, what? Like, these are two. Rey Mysterio is a legend, and Samoa Joe is a legend in a different sense. In a kind of, you know, he's a Ring of Honor legend. He's an Impact legend. So this is a match at WrestleMania that you'll be like, okay, yeah, let's settle in for this. This will be good. And then Samoa Joe just locks asleep on him with about, I don't know, seconds of the match starting and puts him out. It was weird. Like, so they are still doing it on big stages as well. Like, what's the point of that? What's the point of a squash match at WrestleMania? I don't understand. But anyway,
yeah. Also, Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan was also squash.
Oh
match at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
That was. I mean, and
Completely did
who
not
does that
understand
benefit? Because Bryan was the one coming up in that sense as well. Like,
right. So it's just on this big stage, it doesn't make sense. If someone is like, let's not go into the WWE. So
yeah, let's keep it positive. Positive vibes, good vibes. I suppose the big selling point of this match, though, is what happened after the match. I just have absolute chaos underlined 3 times in capitals on my sheet because I was scribbling, trying to keep up with what was going on. But I will try and surmise it for you. I believe, did the Lucha Brothers come out first? I want to say that, Ray Phoenix and Penta, and that kind of carried on. I loved how that carried over from the fact that their stories crossed over with the Kenny and Good Brothers and Bucks and Mox story from the other week, where
Mox came out first, and then the Lucha Brothers. Yeah, Mox was like the whole thing where it started with. Yeah, and then you're mostly sitting in front of TV, and you're like, who's coming next?
Yeah, and then the Lucha Brothers came out, and again that kind of crossed over from last week, wasn't it? Because Pac and Death Triangle and Eddie Kingston, their rivalry kind of crossed over with the main event rivalry, and there was like resentment there separate from their rivalry with Eddie Kingston. So that was good. They came out, and then the Bucks obviously had a reason to come out, and then they reminded us that the Bucks and the Lucha Brothers have beef with the Lucha Brothers super kicking the Bucks. I was just this is the stuff I love AEW for, and this is the thing that hooked me to Dynamite specifically. Was for the first few weeks of Dynamite, they had all these storylines crossing over. Do you know what I mean? I remember, I don't know, it was the first or second episode of Dynamite with Darby Allin skating down towards the end of like just a melee of people, all these storylines crossing over with like the Inner Circle, I think, and people like that. It was. Yeah, and they still got it. This was great. I mean, this could have happened at the end of the show, but it didn't. But yeah, what do we make of this, Jack?
Yeah, absolute carnage. Same as you. I thought, loved the same exact. Just to repeat what you said, basically, I love when AEW and specifically Dynamite, it happens like that. It's just absolute carnage, and like you said,
I like we're not acting like these guys are feuding in their own little worlds and that they never bump into each other. Do you know what I mean? It's one world. It's not a load of separate universes.
Exactly, and it opens up so many more potential storylines for the future, which is just genius. One of the key points I wanted to make when I knew you were going to cross over to me then was what I love is that obviously Kenny and Don start this carnage. They build the carnage. Everyone's then involved. And there's about 20 or so people in the ring. And then you just see Don Callis drag Kenny out and they just like squirm off down the tunnel. And I just love that. It's like it's like Don and Kenny's kind of idea is we come into this world, we F up, muck stuff up.
Pretty sure we've already sworn on this. We fuck shit up.
I'm not going to do it. I'm the only one that's not. Muck stuff up.
To keep the streak going.
That's it.
The no swear streak.
They muck stuff up. They get people fighting, and then they're like, right, you'll do that. We're going to square off down the back. We'll see you next week or a couple of weeks' time or whatever. And it's just like absolute carnage. And one of my favourite bits of like sort of, you call like videography, don't you? It's just all that carnage like brewing in the ring. And I think Luke Gallows just towering over everyone. I think I just saw like Luke Gallows' head above this crowd of people. And it just made me chuckle a little bit because he is just a unit of a man. But yeah, just that was my key point I wanted to make this. Yeah, just the fact they create this world of madness and then they just squirm off not to be seen again.
Gosh darn that scamp Kenny Omega messing everything up. Hey, Jack. Keeping it clean, keeping it PG. I agree with everything you said there. I do think it obviously hints again towards possibly a wider, war/invasion. Maybe not a full-blown invasion, but tensions with Impact, especially with it coming up. And we do know there are people on Impact who are unhappy with Kenny's position on that show. Like, Rich Swann, that's how he's got into this. Rich Swann not being let into the parking lot on Impact and Motor City Machine Guns. So, we'll see how that... It's definitely the most exciting storyline in wrestling at the moment, for sure. Next, we came on to the first edition, well, the first of it on Dynamite, not the first, of Waiting Room with Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. I know Jack's a very big fan of this segment, so I'll come to Jack first for that reason. What were your impressions of Dr. Britt Baker, DMD's debut on Dynamite for her show, The Waiting Room, Jack?
One word, disappointed, actually. Under kind of sold it. I thought it's done really well on Dark, I thought, and obviously clearly it's got the fans over on Dark, and they thought, let's bring it to the Dynamite. And they brought Cody, which I thought was a great kind of selling point. Lots of great to sell it over to Dynamite. Let's bring one of the biggest stars. And then who do they have showing up at the door? Jade Cargill. And then it just erupts this whole kind of, for me, kind of cringy, dumb storyline coming back. It's like, it just, I know it happens on the Dark version of the Waiting Room where it kind of built these storylines and, well, not built storylines, but kind of cemented them a bit more. For example, they had Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels, and that's when they mentioned about, we won't wrestle again next time we lose. And obviously it got mentioned again last week on Dynamite. And there was another example when Sean Spears was on and Scorpio Sky came out because they had a feud. So it had this like place in Dark where it kind of kept these storylines ticking over. But this one, it was like, it just felt like they had Cody, they had the Waiting Room, they wanted to start Dynamite. They were like, what storyline can we sort of do for Cody? Let's bring that Jade Cargill in again. It felt a bit forced. It felt cringe. It did make me laugh, though, when then all the females in the locker room came out, and then you just saw Britt Baker on the sofa just laughing and videoing.
Yeah, I've got that on my notes. She stood up on the sofa and she was like, "World star!" with her camera.
That bit made me creased up. But yeah, it just felt cringy, forced, not as funny as it usually is. And
see, this was my introduction to the Waiting Room. I don't watch Dark. I've never seen it before. So this, I take it, this isn't a perfect example of.
No, it's not. But I did like when they then obviously got the Thunder Rosa promo, and then it got announced. Obviously, their match is going to happen at that beach wedding that obviously Kip and Penelope are having. The same show that's happening, and then I just like Brit's typical Brit fashion.
I love how
she's like, just like, Tony, you said I didn't have to fight her, Tony, and it just ends on that way. And I just thought that was really.
No, after that, she just flat out refused. She's like, no, that's not happening. I like how no one tried that before. Like, no, I'm just not going to do it. I'm on a contract. I'm not going to have it. I'm not gonna,
literally,
you put up a title card. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I just thought that was a good little bit like to add to it. But yeah, so overall for that segment, if I had to give it like a rating out of 5, I'd give it maybe a 2. I thought Britt's part was good, but yeah, that sofa bit, and then obviously the bit at the end. Cody didn't really even get that time to shine on what was meant to be his featuring. And then, when Jade Cargill came out in all the women's locker room, it just felt, then cringe, and that ruined it for me.
How long do they usually talk to the guests for?
It's usually about a 10-minute segment, max, really. It's not really like
many words in it.
No, it wasn't. It's not like an interview thing. It's not really the whole time. Usually there's some like commotion that breaks out, like I said, where
kind of like a Jerry Springer kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's what they're going for, really. But yeah, it's not usually long, 5-10 minutes. But yeah, it just didn't work for me, and I hope it doesn't put them off from doing it again. But yeah, I think it for me did work better on Dark.
Patrick, thoughts?
Not much to add here. Also, first time for me seeing it, because I'm also not watching Dark regularly, maybe in between once in a while, but I haven't watched Dark yet since it found its place there. Yeah, I like also the mixture and the vibe they're bringing up. Of course, this Jerry Springer thing, but also in the beginning, this Oprah reference she was doing, like, oh, look under the seats. Oh, got nothing there. So
Yeah.
typical Oprah, although with an Oprah show there is something below for the guests. But I like the vibe of the show and everything. Curious now to see it. I'm gonna rewatch it on Dark then, as Jack mentioned that it's better there, because I also think the outcome of everything was not that good, because the Jade Cargill storyline is just not clicking for me at all also. And
Stop asking me to care about Jade Cargill. That's all I'm saying. Like, they keep expecting me to care about Jade Cargill. I can't care about Jade Cargill. They've got this. Her primary feud right now is with Brandy. But Brandy won't be able to wrestle because it's a very physical thing with attacking backstage, and obviously they had Red Velvet filling in for her at the moment, which I'll probably do for a month or two. But like, she's not going to be able to wrestle for like a while. 9-month pregnancy and then like maternity leave or whatever. So like, are you just going to try and keep this going? And the stuff with Shaq, like, Shaq's not there. He's not showing up. Like, she's trying to remind people there's this non-rivalry going on between Cody and Shaq, just because it's Shaq, so they have to keep that on the hook in case Shaq shows up, but he's not showing up. And this rivalry with Brandy, which, I mean, they can just let that go. I don't know anyone who's that bothered if I don't know anyone that's at home going, I cannot believe they have let this rivalry between Jade Cargill and Brandy Rhodes go down the drain. Like, I can't see that happening. I don't know about you guys.
Me neither. So the only good outcome of this whole segment in the end was the Thunder Rosa vs. Britt Baker match, the announcement for it.
I mean, we've all been waiting for it.
Really looking forward to that match, yeah, also. And I also like what Jack said also before. I like that how she was sneaking out. I didn't sign for that. No, it's not taking place. No. And then she's just leaving. Yeah. So it's really, really nice to see. Now, I think it's almost a year ago when this happened on the Jericho Cruise with her and Anthony Schiavone. I still don't get
with his, what the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah. So that was the first time, and where she started like having her promos, and where it started, and they recognized like she's good on the mic, but she's better when she's talking trash. And when you see that now, from the year ago to now, she's become so good on the mic, such a legit heel, being a real bitch. I like that, and also Reba, not Reba, with her on the side,
Reba,
or the other.
Rebel.
Rebel Reba, Rebel not Reba. I don't know, but this is also a funny catchphrase with her. But yeah, with her on the side, that's really good. I also was, because I saw it first time. It was a little cringy, but I was laughing hard when she was in the background sitting and just laughing at her jokes with a really bad laugh.
That was the best bit.
I like that
of Reba / Rebel. That was her best bit. I mean, not to toot our own horns, but felt quite vindicated in our decision to make Britt Baker the most improved of the year, because you look at, as you say, how far she's come on the mic. When it comes to Reba / Rebel, I thought her opening the show was pretty poor, and that further reflected that her opening the segment, she was a bit poor on the mic there. And that kind of made Britt look even better by comparison, if I'm honest. But then when she sat down and settled into this secondary role of just laughing at her jokes and stuff, I thought that was very funny. So there were some strengths in it. It wasn't all doom and gloom. Moving on to our next match, we had Jurassic Express versus FTR. What did you make of this match? I went to Jack first last time, so let's go to Patrick.
Wonderful match. I like FTR for really selling the moves of definitely smaller and less heavier guys, like in this case Jungle Boy and Marco Stunt. They did a real good job with that. That was great. That's just how they're showing that they are really the best tag team in the world right now for me. Also, and it was such a nice.
Sorry, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry. Great storytelling also from it. Also you see it now. I was watching it with you, and he didn't know that Jungle Boy had his old entrance theme from the Indies. The
from
what was it called again? The song.
Yeah. Is it called Tarzan Man? I think.
It's Tarzan Boy.
Tarzan Man.
Tarzan Boy. I don't know, from one Italian guy from the 80s, or Tarzan Man, Jungle Man, whatever. Jungle Man, Jack Perry.
Yeah, I
whatever.
remember.
Tarzan Boy. It's called Tarzan Boy.
Tarzan Boy.
From using it, I remember him using it on Joe Janet's Spring Break. I assume he used it in GCW in general, but it hyped me up when I saw him use it there, and I was really glad he was using it. Are they using it as the theme for Jurassic Express in general, or were they just trying to show off we've got this music when you use this music, and then introducing them kind of separately, or like what's going to happen to the of their usual theme?
I think they're keeping it. I think it's just because Jungle Boy was introduced first, or like you said, maybe they're just showing off now this time.
I mean, Marco came out with it, though, so.
Yeah, they were introduced also as Jurassic Express, although Jungle Boy was firstly introduced by Justin Roberts. This is what I got. I was like, oh, cool. He gets his own entrance, and they came out together, and I'm like, okay, weird. But it's nice to show it off, I think, in the beginning, but they should keep, like, when they're really Jurassic Express, they should keep the Jurassic Express theme and then keep going for Jungle Boy for his own theme. Yeah, because also, like, this is what I like. When Jungle Boy has his own theme, this shows now that he might be up for a singles run or so, that they're considering him for this. And this is very important to build his own character a little more. We know his character. JR broke his character over the year for him. And yeah, right. And also, yeah, in the match, before the match now, it was 2019, the match against Chris Jericho, where he started talking, because his gimmick in the beginning was that he also doesn't talk like Tarzan, who doesn't talk in the beginning because he's not used to humans and talking. I like that, but now also when they broke character and now giving me a little more of this gimmick thing back, is like standalone thing that you recognize that they are not all this Jurassic Express group, that everyone is also a singles wrestler and everyone is good as a singles wrestler or as a tag team. You can see in this match again. That's very important for me, so I like that a lot.
You would think he'll have the TNT title within the next couple of reigns, wouldn't you? Or at least the next couple of people to hold it. You expect it to either be the next or the one after that, I would imagine. Shall we come to you, Jack?
Also,
what did you make of this match? And then I shall give my opinions, which I'm sure we're all very excited about.
Yeah, I loved it. I got very excited hearing the entrance music, not just because, like, I don't actually remember too much hearing Jungle Boy's music being that personally, but just I thought it fitted in really well, and it did get me hyped for a little bit. I thought it was a really nice kind of sing along one, like you said it was going to be, Tom, a bit like
just wait until you hear a crowd sing onto it. It gave me goosebumps back, and I thought GCW crowds are one of the best. I mean, they're the new ECW crowds. You know what I mean? So they're one of the best in wrestling. And AEW have great crowds as well. I mean, it's hard to remember now because it was so long ago we had full crowds. But I can imagine that is going to go down a storm once we're back to full crowds.
For sure, it just sounded really good. And then FT. It's like when Jurassic Express came out and I heard that music, I was like, oh yeah, this is like hype. Jurassic Express are out. Yeah, Jungle Boy, Marco Stunt. I was getting hyped for both of them, and then FTR came out, and obviously you hear their music, and I was just like, "Oh yeah, now this is going to be an FTR win." Like the hype was still there. Obviously, it was a big match.
Quite obviously.
But I thought the match in general was really good. I like how we expected last week. Marco Stunt's so good at being able to kind of put on a good performance and make the other guys still look really kind of dominant, I think, like the word I'm kind of... Basically, he's really good at selling, like, the other team's moves, sort of thing. Do you know what
I know what you mean, and this is what I was expecting going in, that he'd just be selling all over the shop and they'd be throwing him around like a rag doll. Didn't really pan out that way for me so much. There was a couple of big spots, but one of them was completely independent, really, of any input from FTR. It was that move they did where he springboarded off. Do you know the one I'm talking about? He's Jungle Boy rolled down onto like his back and springboarded Marco off him, and then he did some sort of like senton or something off the back of that, and it was pretty spectacular. The other one was the finish with the big rig, as it's called now, in honor of Brody Lee. He sold the heck out of that. But I mean, for me. And it did get a "This is awesome" chant, and so I agree, it was a good match. But not so much with Dax, but with Cash, I felt that Marco Stunt was kind of kicking his ass a bit too badly.
But no, yeah, for me, overall, good match. Enjoyed it. One of my favourites of the night. FTR look still like the best tag team in the world, or at least one of them. You can argue still, you can have an argument for days about who's the best. But Jurassic Express and even Marcus Dunk and Jungle Boy, which obviously isn't the combination you're used to out of that group, still looked awesome, and I still would like to see them eventually tag together, not just always Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. I'd like to see, obviously, and I like to see Marcus Stunt get involved. I still think he's a good wrestler.
He's a good wrestler. I think he does work better in six-man tags.
Yeah.
Where they can use him as the impact guy. Because, I mean, I don't know how much of WWE you watched back then, but I remember back in the Shield, Roman Reigns worked really well as the impact guy because he didn't have a very wide, and still to this day doesn't, if I may say so myself, have a very wide repertoire of moves. So he worked really well when Ambrose could be taking a beating, now Jon Moxley, and then, Seth would come in and do some flashy stuff, and then at the end of the match is when they'd get the hot tag to Roman. He'd come in, he'd do a couple of punches, they'd set someone up for the kind of triple powerbomb. And so you've got impact guys like that who are big, and then at the complete opposite end of the scale, in a funny way, I think Marco Stunt is like an impact guy. They would, in six-man tags, they would have Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy would take that role that Moxley did in the Shield, where he got beat down for a lot of the match, but he can still competently and convincingly, throw hands as well. Whereas Marco, he gets tagged in and he gets the hot tag. Do you know what I mean? And they throw him at this guy and they yeet him at someone else, and then he does like some mad triple team move. And then he kind of runs into a big foot and gets knocked down. But like for that moment, he takes the hot tag, and I think that's his better role, to be honest. Where rather than them trying to sell him as a kind of legit guy, that's really hurting, the opponent significantly. But that's just my opinion.
I get you, and just my final point. Yeah, Jungle Boy, I agree with you. Has to be within the next title reign, or within the next couple of reigns with the TNT belt. It's got to be happening for me because he looks legit.
Right, that takes us on to Serena Deeb versus Tay Conti with Anna Jay. I'm going to talk about this one first rather than going to either of you, because this was my match of the night. Yeah, I said it, over the main one. This, I wrote down, one of the things I wrote down on my notes was, I love this. Like, halfway through, I spoke out loud 2 or 3 times, like, this is awesome. Like, okay, so I know you're a big fan of your flippy shit, as we would say in the biz, Jack. You like, your luchas, you like your Ray Phoenix. Nothing wrong with that. Like, Ray, it's an art form into itself. And like, sometimes it's hard to appreciate the technical side of wrestling. If I was to tell someone this is why technical wrestling is so exciting, I would point them to this match, Serena Deeb versus Tay Conti. It was great. There was amazing mat wrestling. It had such a high work rate for a technical match, and they just gelled together so well. I mean, Serena Deeb is like a low-key legend in wrestling. She's one of those legends that's not really appreciated as a legend by the wider wrestling audience. It's kind of like Shinsuke Nakamura got into the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame, like years and years and years ago. Like, I think he was still active in New Japan at this point, where he's being recognized as a actual active legend in the business. We see him as a main eventer in New Japan, sure, maybe not so much in WWE, but like, people within the business really respect him and think this guy's a legend. And I think that's how people see Serena Deeb within the business as well. And you can see why when it comes to matches like this, with her, how good she is at putting other girls over and how good she is at making people look like stars. And Tay Conti has this repertoire of moves from judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu stuff she does as well. It was the perfect storm. It was a great technical match. I'm going to come to Patrick first because I see him nodding. What did you make of this?
Completely agree. That was maybe the show stealer of the night and the real, probably best technical match of the whole evening. Although the main event where we later come to was also great. Was also great, but for another reason. But this was technically great. One thing I want to say directly in the beginning, I don't think it was a wardrobe malfunction, but I didn't like that the pants from Tay Conti were this far up. obviously I like her. She's attractive.
I'm not sure whether we were allowed. I'm not sure whether we were allowed to mention.
No, we can talk about it. I just don't like it.
It does take me out of the match.
It's very distracting. Yeah, really. And I'm not watching wrestling for this type of stuff. They can dress nicely and everything, but it shouldn't be too obviously provocative, whatever, to show off the body, because this is also a reason why I'm not watching WWE anymore, because you had these divas there, and this whole diva thing back in the Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression Era was just super annoying to me, because I like women's wrestling. Yeah, that's just what I like. I don't want to be distracted from it. If I want to see something like this, I just go to her OnlyFans account or whatever, you know. Yeah. That's my
hashtag,
thing of it, because I like her as a
Pat to the mat, cancel Pat. No, I mean, of course,
a conservative German.
Exactly. Not to slut shame, I think is the word, but yeah, no. She's a well endowed woman, so it can be distracting, but yeah, I mean, less said about it. I dodged 2 bullets today. It was only a matter of time before one of them hit me. Moving on. No, it was a fantastic match though. The technical wrestling, I was worried was just going to be a match opener, was just going to be something they were doing at the beginning of the match to get it going. I was like, please don't let them just move on to rest holds and the sports entertainment style wrestling or whatever, and it didn't stop. It was just the whole way through, and I was so happy about that. My only complaint is it didn't last long enough. It felt a bit short for a championship match. I could have watched a match 3 times that long of more of that. I gave it a 4.5 on the 5-star rating, 2.5 off because of how long it lasts, how short it was, and 2.5 off because there wasn't really a story there to get invested in. But even so, yeah, no, great. As a match, as a standalone match, it is flawless, I think. What about you, Jack?
Yeah, I also really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good technical match, like you said. And as you mentioned prior, I am more usually of a lucha style wrestling. But yeah, for me, this was just, as you mentioned, just a really good technical match to watch. I enjoyed both wrestlers. Before this match, I definitely enjoyed them during the match, and I'll still be enjoying them after. It gave me a good account for both wrestlers, good match to watch, some really good points in each match. Obviously, you knew Tay Conti wasn't going to win, but you still felt like during the match there was moments she could. Yeah, Serena Deeb, just a really good champ as well. But yeah, and I hope this is still just the building of Tay Conti for bigger and better things.
Well, Tay Conti justifying her position as 3rd place on our Breakthrough Female of the Year, and also Serena Deeb was in the conversation. I know she was on Patrick's list for Female Wrestler of the Year, so, I mean, makes a lot of sense when you see it. And they work so well together, and I would put the women's title on Serena Deeb, and I know that's a big controversial statement because she's a champion for another company, but I would do that and let her, because she made Tay Conti look like a star, right? In one match, she made Tay Conti look like the future of the division. So do similar thing to what Cody tried to do with the TNT title, which I actually think Serena Deeb would be more successful at. Give her the women's title, she'll be a dual champion, she'll look legit coming out with 2 belts, she'll look like a boss, and just have her go out every match and do that to everybody, make everybody look that good. And that's what I do, and that's how, obviously we've talked about maybe them bringing girls in from Impact and doing something there, especially with the Knockouts Championships coming soon. The Knockouts Tag Team titles are coming back tomorrow at Hard to Kill, I think. So with that, I mean, you've got like Anna Jay and Tay Conti who could go for them. You've got Diamante and Ivelisse. But, there's a lot of stuff they could do there with crossing over with Impact. But even if they don't do that, they've got a winner here if they just put Serena Deeb in more. Use her, do you know what I mean? Because NWA Power's not on the air right now, is it? I assume. So, use what you've got.
Sorry for the interruption. I just had to Google her to Serena Deeb to make sure. So she was, in the end, just a trainer. That's what you have to say, that just at the Performance Center. But I also saw in the same article she was in the Straight Edge Society with CM Punk and Luke Gallows. Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, she had a head shaved.
Yeah. She had a head shaved. Okay, now I know who that is.
She posed as... Yeah, she posed as someone in the audience and then got her head shaved. She was also in the Mae Young Classic, the first one, I believe. She was
also in there. But then, like I said, really underutilized for just being a trainer or coach, because she's way better than this. Especially when she's on camera, she can now, like you said, now that she can really show off, make the other wrestler look good. In this case, Tay Conti even look better. And bring such a strong power then to it, like really with her experience. That's very important, and this is what I like about AEW. Hope they're also using Sting in some kind of way like this.
Well, we'll get onto that in a minute. That's a nice segue into our next match. Darby Allin versus Brian Cage. Now, this was contender for match of the night for me, but there were a few missteps also in my opinion, as well as some fucking amazing wrestling, excuse my language, great, awesome spots. Let's go to Jack, because I believe I went to Patrick before on that one. What did you make of this main event, Jack?
Yeah, really solid main event. Loved the start where Brian Cage, for me, looked like he was just like throwing about Darby like a ragdoll, especially having Taz on commentary. I thought at the start when I saw him, I was like, well, that's obviously going to bring a biased take to it that I might not enjoy as much, but I thought it actually added to it because there was parts in the match as well that he actually wasn't being biased, and he actually picked up the mistakes like Brian Cage was making in the match, and he was like, oh no, you shouldn't have done that, and like all this sort of stuff to make it like Brian Cage isn't this god that he was like obviously portraying him to be. And yeah, in terms of like a story, if you're picturing the match as a story, yeah, it was like you go into the match at the start, bigger guys throwing about the smaller guy. The smaller guy has that never say die attitude and comes out and then, yeah, gets the win. And I really enjoyed it. Again, one of the matches for me. I think you got about 3 contenders probably match of the night with FTR Jurassic Express, the women's match, and this one. I think they've all got shouts. Probably more the women's match in this one. I think we're probably the top 2, but still, obviously, Jurassic Express and FTR are in there as well. And yeah, I think we all knew Darby was going to retain the title, but that still didn't put off for this like being a really solid match. And I'm interested to see what they do with Brian Cage now, because now he's had 2 title shots. He's lost both of them. So yeah, so where does he go now? Obviously, still with Team Taz. So yeah, I'm just interested to know his storylines. Any potential storylines you guys reckon could happen now?
Well, let's go to Patrick. Would you like to answer that? Where do you think they go from here? And moreover, what did you make of the match as well?
Yeah, Jake pointed that really out good with the where is he going now? Because he lost now 2 title matches. I was also thinking during the match that he won the like poker chip at what was it, Double or Nothing, and yeah, they didn't utilize it. Although the match, like let's saying first, the match was really good. Was not perfect. I also have to say, maybe like you'll come to your critic points later, Tom, but I liked it in general. This was what I was expecting, that Darby Allin gets totally crashed. Yeah, the moment when Brian Cage completely threw him off the ring into the table. What I was expecting, complete carnage. Like he's really reckless with his body. Also, Darby Allin. I like that. I also like that Brian Cage tries to smash him. It makes him more look in the end for this fighting back, that he's a champion, that he's indestructible, that his image of this like reckless, indestructible guy keeps on being strong. What I did not like is that Brian Cage was a little too over at one point, that he looked way too strong, that a guy almost half his weight can really win it then I'd say in a real short time. He was turning the match around, and the match finish was not that good, although I liked the move, but for me that was not a finishing move. Yeah, that's what I think so far.
Okay, so I have a lot to say about this match. This is to this week what Hikaru Shida versus Abaddon was for me last week. Not in the same sense, because I thought this was a really good match. I give it 4 out of 5, just not slightly worse than the women's, not as good as the women's match, but it was a great match. I'd go as far as saying, but it could have been a spectacular match. Do you know what I mean? First off, I've got to agree with Patrick. That table spot, for one, was brutal. I mean, the table exploded. I've never seen a table break like that. It was just, I don't know how hard he threw him into it, or whether it was gimmick like that, but that was mental. And like, Darby bladed.
Was he also blading then? Sorry.
Yeah.
Was he blading?
Yeah, I believe he was blading off the table spot. Yeah. And that's the first time I looked at it, I was like, yeah, I believe it. Like, if there's ever a table spot that would bust someone open, I was like, that's the one. Like, because usually if someone goes for a table and then blade, I'd be like, come on. But like the way it exploded, I was like, yeah, I absolutely believe that could have destroyed his face. I'm surprised he's alive. Like it was like a grenade hitting the ground. Just to add on to what you said about how reckless he is with his body. I mean, sure, you can look at that and say he's reckless, but I think for the most part that was a safe spot. What I don't think was a safe spot was the coffin drop on the steps, where the edge of it was so very clearly exposed, and if he didn't get his body flat in the air like he did, his spine is easily going into that edge. Like, Brian Cage wasn't covering the edge of that. There wasn't any kind of soft, well, I mean, Brian Cage is probably not a soft feeling guy, but do you know what I mean? Softer than the edge of some steel steps. There wasn't any kind of flesh there to land on if he got that wrong.
Yeah, I was also very concerned about that, to be honest. That was really tough. Like, also, Hugh, I have to mention Hugh again, but he will be on our podcast also, hopefully one day. And but he directly said, like, dude, I was thinking he's missing that completely, because if he missed that just by a few centimeters, or if you're listening from the US, inches, this could have broken his neck or really caused serious damage to him, because this edge was completely exposed. And even though these are like what is like aluminum light steel steps, which are not really, I mean,
it's still not
heavy,
the edge is still not going to give whatever it's made of. The edge is not going to give.
Right. So that's still very, very dangerous.
Just beat by beat, I was a fan of how it started. I loved how Darby just shot out of the blocks, because that's how you would start if you were this small guy against this big guy. You've got to just surprise him. You've got to go the element of surprise. You can just start beating on him like a dog. Like, I appreciated that, how it started. I was less appreciative of something that started emerging in the mid-match, which was, okay, so Brian Cage, as we just established, obliterated Darby Allin through a table. He beats on him some more. He does these just huge, gruesome spots. Like, I think he did some sort of F5. I don't know if it was intentionally like a modified F5, like a pile driver kind of thing that dropped him on his head, or whether that was just how Darby sold it. But he was, he was killing him. And then Darby kicks out at 1. And then, okay, like, I wasn't a big fan of that, but like, let's let it slide. Then Brian Cage keeps beating on him. He hits a power bomb on him to the outside of the ring. He then does an outside in suplex over the ropes. Darby kicks out at 1 again. Like, I don't think he needs to be doing that. I think kicking out at 2, from the way Brian Cage was treating him, kicking out at 2 is enough to sell that kind of spirit of John Cena, never give up attitude that they were going for. Do you know what I mean? I don't think he needs the kick out at 1 there. I think all that served to do was to have this big guy in there and making us believe this big guy is kicking the shit out of this smaller guy, and then just making him look weak by having him kick out at 1. Like I said, I think you get exactly the same effect for Darby, the positive effect for Darby, by having him kick out at 2 repeatedly than having him repeatedly kick out at 1. All you're doing is making your other boy look like nothing, aren't you? Like, if this is, if
definitely, especially when it's Brian Cage.
Yeah, man.
Especially when it's Brian Cage, who is like double the size as him and a real monster. It's just like, also like I said before, he now lost his title match, his AEW title match, and this title match, and in the end he just looks weak.
But this is the thing, and from this match, Brian Cage is a star. I saw glimpses of Lucha Underground Brian Cage in this. Do you know what I mean? With he did a combination in the corner at one point where I think he did, like, I don't know, it was like an enziguri or something, and then there was another move in there. It was like a 3-move combo, and then he finished it with like a German suplex out of the corner or something. It was some beautiful work. He's a really good wrestler. And he's got, I don't know how hot he is on the mic, but he's got Taz as a mouthpiece, so that doesn't matter. You know, they could be doing things with him. And then they're not really. I mean, they're trying to give him these kind of squash matches on, I assume, on Dark to give him such a good record. But no, I mean, they're just missing a trick with him on the main roster, I think. And this match didn't help. Want to come back to what you said about the finish? Yeah, I mean, yeah, he goes down off a crucifix pin off the second rope, and the announce team tried to sell it as Darby using his weight against him. If that's the case, then why doesn't every big man just get pinned by a crucifix pin? If this is the bane of big, why do we want to see like Big Show going down to like crucifix pins? Because that guy's, you know, they're selling him as £500, or they used to be. So like, why is everyone just not trying to hit Big Show with a crucifix pin because he won't be able to kick out of it because he's heavy? Do you know what I mean? And we're supposed to believe that Brian Cage can't kick out his own body weight when we just saw him which, I mean, to focus on a positive, because I'm being pretty negative, we just saw him like bench press Darby up onto the top rope, or the second. Do you remember that spot where he kicked out of a pin, and he kicked out the pin so hard that Darby flew up on, was propelled up onto the ropes, which I thought was an awesome spot, just as an aside. But then we're supposed to go from that to Brian Cage can't kick out his own weight. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit weird. I mean, what did you make of it, Jack?
Yeah, no, that's what I love this podcast, because you pick up points like that initially I didn't think to talk about. But yeah, no, 100% get that. It was, when they said it did like register with me. It was like when they mentioned obviously using his own weight against him. Oh, that's like so clever. Yeah,
no, I agree. I agree because you look at him and you think, yeah, being a big guy, it might be hard if you've had your hands taken away, if you have your arms taken away. Like I was watching it too, and I think that is fundamentally sound. Like it probably would be quite hard for him to move out of that, maybe harder than it would be for a smaller guy. But to my point, why not just always do that then?
Yeah.
Against the big guys, and why not? You know, and like if you're setting that as a standard, then you know, I don't know if that's a good thing.
Yeah, I just don't see it as a thing that really works. I think if you're going to have a small guy beat a big guy, you've got to be like ruthless, and you've got to use your like pace to your like advantage. You could be doing all these quick fire, building up that momentum, like building on it. You've got to have a couple failed pins, but you've got to keep on going. Maybe like even 2-3 coffin drops would have won that match or whatever. It just kind of seemed like it.
Yeah, go New Japan style, hit him with like 2 or 3 finishes.
Yeah, it didn't feel like a small guy beating a big guy match. It felt like they made the whole big deal about doing the weigh-in last week to register the size difference, and then Darby gets the pin, and it doesn't really feel like he got the pin, and it was such a big deal based on the size. It just felt like he just got the pin, and it didn't like Brian couldn't get out, when realistically the size Brian Cage is on a regular pin, he would just get out, wouldn't he?
But yeah, no, finish aside, it was a good match. I feel like when we talk negative, we talk about the negatives, we run a risk of making it seem like it wasn't a good match. It was a good match. It was a great match. Second best match of the night for me. It was, it was good. It wasn't fantastic, but it was a really good match. After the match, Sting comes out again. Well, he actually came out towards the end of the match to deal with Ricky Starks, didn't he? But I feel like, again, I've got to come back to what Conan was saying and said he was talking about on his podcast. Do something with Sting. You know, even when they're doing something with Sting, it doesn't feel like they're really doing something with Sting. Like he came out to even the odds. It was a very, basic save, if that makes sense. You know, like Scott, he's there, he just evens the odds, and then that's, he didn't do anything he's not really been on the mic much. He didn't do anything noteworthy with Darby in the ring afterwards. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. What did you make of it?
Yeah, definitely. Also, they finally did something with him, and then it's just this small interaction he's really, really doing, because he's still not saying anything, just standing there, just everything's dark, and he's coming out then, and this is what I liked. He was like, it turned black and then bright again, and then he was directly standing there in the middle of the entrance. I was like, okay, that's cool. That was quick. But in the end, they didn't use it so good yet. So I hope they just pick up the speed a little bit with him and just make something out of it.
Can I just add this? Oh, sorry.
Sorry. No, I was saying, it almost feels like they don't want to do anything with Sting, because it feels like they're doing the same thing with Sting like 3 weeks in a row, having him come out, stare down people, and then everyone online is like, do something with Sting, and they're like, ugh, fine, we'll do something with Sting, and then do the absolute bare minimum. Do you know what I mean? It almost feels like that, like a moody teenager, like reluctantly complying, like malicious compliance sort of thing.
No, what I was going to say was I was actually annoyed with the Sting entrance. Now, it had its positives for me. Like Patrick said, the lights went out and it went bright again. He was just there. That's what we wanted, that element of surprise, because before there wasn't the element of surprise there. What I also liked is we've been moaning this whole time about how he's been approaching the ring slowly and stuff, and he doesn't do anything, he just stares. He actually used the bat this time, which I was happy to see. Like, he actually got involved. They're the only two positives, unfortunately. The one thing that did annoy me was this was Darby's first title defense. This was his big match. He's the title, he's the champ, and he was the underdog in that match. Now he's just won, and the end wasn't about that, and there was no Darby music celebrating. There was no, him like celebrating. It was just the whole match then ended with, oh yeah, Sting's here again, and Sting's music cut, and it was all blue in the snow, and that's how it ended. It was like Darby's just like won the match, like, and we're here talking about Sting, like we're not even talking about the Darby win, and we're not even getting like the shots of Darby with the title again and the Darby music, and it's just like, oh, Darby's won the title. Oh, but here's Sting again. Let's focus on Sting. This is our big thing at the moment. Like that, it just annoyed me a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. If you're going to detract from Darby's win in any way, that's cool. That's fine. It happens in wrestling. You know, you've got to fit everyone in. You've got to further storylines, but at least do something with the Sting thing. Do you know what I mean? At least progress it in some way beyond like, I like Darby, I don't like Team Taz. Do you know what I mean? Do something beyond that to give us something to talk about for next week. And you know, but yeah, all in all, good match. You know, keeping Sting on telly, which is fine. I would like to see them do more with this storyline. I would like them to explain what this connection is between Sting and Darby Allin beyond the fact that we both wear black and white face paint. Do you know what I mean? But we've talked about that before. I'm sure we'll talk about it again until AEW give us a reason to be invested in this partnership. On to a preview of next week. We have, well, they're not called Proud and Powerful anymore, are they? Santana and Ortiz versus Jericho and MJF versus Sammy Guevara and Jake Hager. I think we're all excited about this match. We touched on it a little bit in the rest of the show. Jack especially is nodding away. Then we've got Matt Sydal and Top Flight versus Matt Hardy and Private Party. Then we've got Negative One's birthday celebration match, Hangman Page and the Dark Order, which is, I believe, John Silver, Alex Reynolds, and Colt Cabana versus Chaos Project and TH2. We will have an update on the Miro and Chucky T situation. We'll have Nyla Rose in action for the first time in a little while, I think since her last title match, versus Layla Hirsch. We will have John Moxley in action, and this wasn't mentioned in the show, but potentially some fallout from Hard to Kill, you have to imagine. What are we looking forward to next week, lads?
I'm going to be honest, it's hard to pick a highlight out of that one. For me, it's the Inner Circle triple threat. Yeah, but the others, I was like, when you were reading them out there's some good stuff, don't get me wrong. There's some good wrestlers I'm looking forward to watching. Yeah, like I said, the Inner Circle triple threat's going to get me hooked the most. Looking forward to watching Private Party again and Matt Sydal. That whole match in general is going to be good. I don't think it's going to be an amazing match. It's not going to be one where we're like, this was the match of the night. But it'll be one where we'll be like, it was a good match. Nyla Rose and Layla Hirsch. Looking forward to seeing Layla again in action. Not as much Nyla Rose. I'm hoping it's not just a match to make Nyla look good to them, keep her relevant, but not really. Actually,
I would suspect there'll be some decent match time in there.
Yeah.
I really hope it's not a squash.
Yeah,
we already established AEW doesn't really do squashes, but I hope it isn't an AEW squash, if that makes sense.
That's it. And actually, just a quick toucher, and I know hopefully Patrick's feeling the same way. Nyla Rose and Vicky Guerrero's bits on BTE are just the weirdest thing going on right now. And I'm being honest, it's pretty much like a prostitution bit, and I'm really weirded out by it. By the fact that Vicky Guerrero went up to, who was it?
You're completely right, sorry.
Yeah, no, she was wearing what could only be it was like a nun outfit, which it obviously was based on a previous episode, so I don't, got no problem with that. They used it for a previous episode. And then she goes over to, I can't remember who specifically, and it's obviously to get a donation because she's trying to get money because she's dressed as a nun. She's getting money for charity, and she's trying to get money. And then all you see on the camera is just her then just pick her boobs up like that, and then she gets maybe $5 or whatever. And I was like, what have I just watched? That's just weirded me. Seeing Vicky Guerrero just push her boobs up to then get $5 to run away. And then Nyla Rose goes off, tries to do it, and then just ends up punching someone. It's just a really weird bit. They're both dressed as nuns. It really weirded me out. And yeah, Nyla Rose, that's the only way I could describe it. I hope I've done it justice. Go check it out.
I feel like I should keep not watching BTE so you get the pleasure of describing this shit to me.
No, because it's just weird. But yeah, no,
based on Nyla Rose's Twitter, I am not surprised by this in the least. She has a very weird Twitter. It's weird and sexual are the two words I would describe it as.
No, it's just weird. But yeah, so yeah, the Dark Order match I'm looking forward to as well. Not as much looking forward to seeing Chaos Project, but I'm looking forward to seeing TH2 again. John Moxley in action, that'll be good. Love seeing Mox, obviously.
I wonder if the Moxley in action thing is a Moxley in action rather than Moxley versus whoever, because again, we're going to be waiting for some fallout from Hard to Kill.
Yeah,
who knows? I've got to imagine it will affect storylines on Dynamite, but it's got to affect some matches down the road. The only thing is, will there be any quarantine involved going back and forth? I'm not sure.
That's the only thing. But then the Good Brothers have been going back and forth, haven't they?
Well, I haven't, not really actually, because I watched Genesis, Impact Genesis, and I think I watched 1 or 2 weeklies before that. I'm hard to keep track. And
well, Carl Anderson just had a match with one of the mates from Motor City Machine Guns. He had that last week.
You schooling me?
That's it. He had a match.
But before that, I see. The only thing you don't know is you don't know in what order they're taping them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
You don't know when they're taping these impacts. I know they're pre-taping some episodes of AEW. They're still doing some live, but 1 or 2 of them, especially with this at the beginning of the year, there was at least 1 episode pre-taped. I remember hearing because they're filming somewhere else soon, aren't they?
Outside I heard about that. They're moving, yeah.
Yeah. And I know there's going to be some pre-taping going on around. I don't know whether that means pre-taping some at Daly's place or pre-taping one at the new place, but I know there will be some pre-taping involved. So it's hard to keep a timeline of whether people are quarantining or not. But I do remember not seeing the Good Brothers on Impact when I've watched a few times, or if I did see them, they were it was with Kenny in his bus, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get you. But yeah, going back to just the question you posed, what am I looking forward to? Yeah, probably the Circle Triple Threat. So, well, I don't know why I'm calling it Triple Threat. It's not a 6-man tag.
It's a triple threat. It's a triple tag.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my most hyped. So I'll pass over to Patrick now. We can discuss his.
I really don't have anything to add to next week's episode, like from my outlook to it, but
what's the match?
I don't know if you guys also. I don't know actually. I don't know yet. We'll see it then. Like because they're not all matches are announced yet. I think. Like the Moxley one, Moxley in action. Okay, that's just like and Miro gives an update. But when I'm scrolling through it, I'm just maybe mostly looking forward to the Inner Circle match. That's really it. So, but I'm not focused on that. I'm mostly like oh, okay, let's see what next week comes, and then when the show starts and I see which matches are coming, I'm like, oh, that's good. Oh yeah, that's good. So mostly I'm blending it out for a week what's happening. If there's like a bigger main event like this week, or then mostly I'm just okay, this might happen. So, but match wise, just the Inner Circle where I'm most looking forward to it. The Dark Order match will get a bigger build-up, I guess, on Monday on BTE, and then we see the other ones happening. Also, yeah, that's what I have to say, that Layla Hirsch comes in again. That I was happy about seeing that because I want to see her. I just hope it's not a squash match, but I'm afraid it will be. But I think Jack. Yeah, that's what I think. Jack said everything you need to say about like Nyla Rose and stuff right now. But what I wanted to come to also now is like, I don't know if you also saw this. Bleacher Roll, not Bleacher Roll, Bleacher Report app.
Why'd you call it Bleacher Roll? Where did you get that from? You did that last time as well.
Bleacher Roll? What is Bleacher Roll? Isn't that
What is Bleacher Roll? Yeah.
I don't know. What is Bleacher Roll? Okay, let's just Google it quickly. This can be a funny bit for the show. What is Bleacher Roll? In the end, it's a weird hentai website or so. There's nothing. Yeah, really.
There is
Maybe
nothing.
I'm mixing it up. What is? Let me just think. What is the Netflix for animes called again?
It sounds like something you'd eat in prison when you've run out of other condiments. It's like
okay. Oh, that's good.
Or
no,
like
just
a punishment,
that.
like a hazing or something. You just shove a roll dipped in bleach, and oh man, they gave him the bleacher roll. What the fuck, man? You did it last week as well.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Bleacher Report, Patrick. Anyway, where are you going?
Bleacher Report. Yeah, the Bleacher Report said that they're streaming on their app the AEW Dynamite Awards on 27th of January.
Well, we beat them to it.
Did you hear about this already? Yeah, I can just quickly drop.
I hadn't heard about it, to be honest. We'll watch it.
Yeah, they have it. Like even Shaquille O'Neal will be one of the hosts for one award. So they're just giving out awards, mostly best moment on the mic, biggest surprise, breakout star, male, female, biggest beatdown, high flyer award, hardest moment to clean up after. Really weird.
So
biggest WTF moment.
You don't even need to watch that. Just listen to our podcast.
Obviously.
Yeah, right. Okay. Like here, also like the categories are not as good as ours. They also have a LOL award and the best Twitter follow.
Oh, that's very WWE Slammy Awards. like
Yeah,
energy.
also
Do
the
you not think?
biggest WTF moment. Then I have to say, like, because you can still listen to a very good special episode we recorded, and which might be up now when you're listening to it. It really depends on things we cannot foresee. But
We
there's
did
one
warn
thing
people.
we
It does say
completely
we're
missed.
unprofessional in our bio.
But there's one thing we completely missed. There's a nomination for the biggest WTF moment is Sammy Guevara got hit by a golf car, and it was 2020. That's the biggest thing we missed, I guess, in our award show. I thought it was
that should have
2019
been in the
still.
top 3, but I think we all collectively forgot him getting hit by the golf. Not forgot him getting hit by the golf cart, but forgot it being in 2020, as you say. I think we all kind of compartmentalized that as something that happened before this kind of window of voting. But yeah,
Somehow
I have to
we
agree
did
with
that.
you and say I'm excited to see Layla Hirsch. I'm semi-excited to see Nyla Rose, and I know, right, but just hear me out here. Like, I'm always interested to see what's going on with her, because she appears so sporadically, and she showed up, and she was so ring rusty before. And I desperately wanted to do good, because she's like, they need to invest, in women now, but like she's like an OG of the women's division. She was one of those. There was Riho, Nyla Rose, and Shida and stuff like that. So I wanted to be good just for the fact that then they wouldn't need to build a big star from the ground up or a big heel from the ground up. So I wanted to just like get her shit together and be a really good wrestler, and and there is good storytelling possibilities in her matches with the size of her compared to the girl she's wrestling, but it's just. Come on, like, but yeah, I don't know if it was just ring rust last time, but she was moving quite slowly. Whether that was just lack of, having matches, or whether she's been laying off in training a bit. But I wasn't impressed last time. I'm hoping to be a little bit more impressed this time. I'm intrigued to see how her style works with Layla Hirsch. That I would say is the one I'm looking forward to the most, especially off the back of a good women's match this week. I mean, I'm not under any illusions this one will be as good, especially seeing as Nyla Rose made it onto our. Third worst wrestler of the year after behind Luther and Brandy Rhodes, but stranger things have happened. And that, I think, just about wraps up our show. We've done it. We've made it to the end of episode 2.
We're there.
I'm proud of us.
Proud of you.
Oh,
There's been
proud of you too, Patrick. I think we're leaving Patrick out of this.
I'm
hungry. There's been some highs and lows.
So that would be goodbye from me, and we'll see you next week. And also a big goodbye from Jack.
Goodbye from me.
And a very German goodbye from Patrick.
Yeah, tschüss now.
Is that what it is? Is that goodbye in German?
Yeah, that's you can say so many times, but I just said this time tschüss now, and next time I'll say something else because there are 1 million ways to say goodbye.
There's 1 million ways to say everything in German, isn't there?
Yeah,
Anyway,
definitely.
until next time, thanks for joining us.